High-value circles are not found by asking for access. They are entered by becoming valuable enough that access is inevitable, because rooms with millionaires are not guarded by security. They are guarded by standards, and the reason most people never enter the 1% is not because the door is locked, but because their habits, mindset, and behavior disqualify them long before they ever get close. To enter rooms with millionaires, you must first understand a brutal truth. Wealthy people do not want more friends. They want leverage, competence, reliability, and results. And if you cannot offer one of those, you are invisible no matter how ambitious you sound. The first rule of high-value circles is this: nobody cares about your potential, they care about your execution, because potential is cheap and everywhere, while results are rare and expensive. Entering the 1% begins when you stop asking how to meet rich people and start asking how to become useful to them, because usefulness creates proximity and proximity creates opportunity. Millionaires live in a different frequency. They talk about problems, systems, scaling, risk, efficiency, and leverage, not gossip, drama, or excuses. And if your conversations do not align with that frequency, you will never be invited back into the room. High-value circles reward discretion, competence, and calm confidence, not loud ambition or performative hustle, because real power moves quietly and expects you to do the same. To get into these rooms, you must clean up your life first, your finances, your body, your schedule, your communication, because chaos signals liability, and liability is dangerous at high levels. Entering the 1% means you stop trying to impress and start trying to contribute, because contribution is the only currency that never devalues. Millionaires notice who shows up prepared, who listens more than they speak, who executes without being reminded, and who solves problems without seeking credit. One of the fastest ways to disqualify yourself from high-value circles is by talking too much, especially about yourself, your struggles, or your dreams, because status is not claimed, it is assigned based on behavior. Entering rooms with millionaires requires patience, because trust compounds slowly, but once earned it unlocks access that money alone cannot buy. You must understand that wealthy people are constantly filtering for risk, inefficiency, and weakness, not emotionally, but strategically, and anything that smells like instability gets removed immediately. High-value circles value consistency over intensity, because intensity is emotional and consistency is structural. To enter the 1%, you must become predictable in your reliability and unpredictable in your results. This is where personal discipline becomes social leverage, because when people know you execute without excuses, they begin to pull you closer. Millionaires do not tolerate victim language, because responsibility is the foundation of wealth. So if you speak like life is happening to you instead of being shaped by you, you will never belong in those rooms. Entering the 1% also means you stop chasing status symbols and start building real assets, skills, networks, and systems. Because real wealth recognizes substance instantly. High-value circles operate on long-term thinking, so if you're impatient, impulsive, or constantly chasing shortcuts, you always remain on the outside looking in. To get into rooms with millionaires, you must be able to sit comfortably in silence, absorb information, and act decisively when needed, because emotional control signals maturity. Wealthy environments reward those who can delay gratification, take calculated risks, and remain calm under pressure, because money amplifies who you already are. Entering the 1% means you stop needing validation, because neediness repels power, while self-sufficiency attracts it. You must become someone who adds value even when nobody is watching, because reputation in high-value circles travels faster than introductions. Millionaires talk to each other. They share notes, and your name will either be associated with reliability or liability long before you realize it. High-value circles also demand discretion, because information is power, and anyone who leaks, brags, or exaggerates is removed instantly. To enter these rooms, you must upgrade your standards in how you dress, speak, move, and manage your time, not to fake status, but to reflect competence. The 1% is allergic to excuses, because excuses signal lack of control, and lack of control is unacceptable at high levels. Entering rooms with millionaires means you stop seeing yourself as lucky to be there and start seeing yourself as someone who belongs, because you have earned it. This shift changes your posture, your tone, and your decisions. High-value circles are built on mutual respect, not hierarchy, and respect is earned through action, not words. You must be willing to start at the edge of the room. Observe, Learn and prove yourself through execution before expecting influence. Entering the 1% requires humility without weakness, confidence without arrogance, and ambition without desperation. This is where you stop trying to shortcut relationships and start building credibility over time. Millionaires do not need you to be perfect, but they need you to be accountable, because accountability scales and excuses do not. To enter rooms with millionaires, you must understand leverage, whether it is skills, capital, network, or execution power, and build at least one form of leverage relentlessly. The 1% is not impressed by talkers. They are impressed by closers, people who finish what they start. Once you internalize this, your entire approach changes. You stop asking for opportunities and start creating them. Entering high-value circles is the natural outcome of becoming high-value yourself. And the moment you stop chasing the room and start becoming the kind of man the room wants inside, doors begin to open without you ever knocking. Because the truth is simple. The 1% is not exclusive by invitation. It is exclusive by standard. And when you meet the standard long enough, access is no longer a question. It is a consequence. And once you understand that access is a consequence, not a request, your behavior begins to shift at a deep level, because you stop operating from hunger and start operating from intent. High-value circles sense desperation instantly, and desperation is the loudest signal of weakness. So your first real upgrade is internal. You detach your self-worth from approval and tie it to execution. This is where most people fail, because they want proximity without preparation, and preparation without pain does not exist. Entering rooms with millionaires requires you to accept that you will be tested. Silently, not through interviews or questions, but through time, consistency, and pressure. They watch how you handle small responsibilities before trusting you with larger ones. Because wealth is simply responsibility, scaled up. If you cannot manage your health, your schedule, your emotions, and your commitments, no one serious will risk bringing you closer. This is why self-discipline becomes your entry ticket. Not motivation, not inspiration, but boring, repeatable discipline that proves you are stable. High-value circles do not gamble on unstable people because instability is expensive. The 1% values predictability in character and unpredictability in results, meaning they want to know exactly how you behave under pressure while being surprised by how much you can deliver. To move closer into these rooms, you must learn to think in terms of systems instead of effort. Because effort is emotional and systems are scalable. Millionaires are obsessed with leverage, time leverage, people leverage, capital leverage, and knowledge leverage. And if you cannot speak this language fluently, you will always feel out of place. This is why upgrading your mind comes before upgrading your network, because your thinking determines whether you belong. Entering high-value circles also requires strategic patience, because rushing signals insecurity, and insecurity is expensive in environments where decisions move large amounts of money. Wealthy people take their time because they understand compounding, and they expect you to respect that pace. When you speak, your words must be intentional, precise, and grounded in reality, not fantasy, because exaggeration erodes trust faster than failure. Failure is acceptable if owned, but excuses are not. This is where radical accountability becomes your strongest social asset, because people trust those who take responsibility even when it costs them. The 1% is built on trust networks, not public reputation, and trust is earned privately through consistency. You must also learn to separate confidence from ego, because ego demands recognition while confidence does not. High-value circles are filled with people who do not need to announce their importance, because their results already have. If you constantly try to prove yourself, you reveal that you are not yet secure. Entering rooms with millionaires requires you to become comfortable being underestimated at first, because those who are loud are watched carefully, while those who are quiet and effective rise quickly. This is where humility becomes a strategic advantage, not weakness, because it allows you to learn without resistance. The 1% respects learners who apply, not talkers who consume information without execution. Another critical rule of high-value circles is discretion, because information is currency, and anyone who leaks details for attention is immediately cut off. Wealthy environments operate on trust and silence, and if you cannot keep your mouth shut, you cannot be kept close. This is why your social media behavior matters more than you think, because it reveals whether you crave attention or value results. Millionaires notice patterns, not isolated actions, so one disciplined month means nothing compared to one disciplined year. Entering the 1% requires long-term proof, not short-term performance. You must also understand that wealthy people are problem-oriented, not emotion-oriented, meaning they do not care how you feel about a situation. They care about how you solve it. If you bring problems without solutions, you become a burden. If you bring solutions without drama, you become an asset. This shift alone can change your entire trajectory. High-value circles reward those who reduce friction because friction costs time and money. Your goal is to become frictionless, easy to work with, clear in communication, precise in execution, and consistent in delivery. The 1% is allergic to chaos because chaos kills scalability. This is why your personal life must be boringly stable, because instability bleeds into professional environments whether you admit it or not. Wealthy people do not want to manage your emotions, your excuses, or your personal drama. They want results. Entering rooms with millionaires also requires you to upgrade your physical presence, not for vanity, but for signaling discipline. How you dress, move, and carry yourself communicates whether you respect standards. Sloppy presentation signals sloppy execution, and nobody bets money on sloppy execution. High-value circles do not expect perfection, but they expect effort in presentation because it shows respect for the room. The 1% also values adaptability because markets change, environments shift, and rigid thinkers break. You must show that you can learn, adjust, and execute without emotional collapse. This is where mental resilience becomes social currency because calm under pressure is rare and valuable. Wealthy people test you indirectly by watching how you respond to setbacks, delays, and ambiguity. If you panic, complain, or withdraw, you fail the test. If you stay composed and continue executing, you move closer. Entering the 1% also means you stop romanticizing wealth and start respecting the weight that comes with it. Money amplifies consequences, and wealthy people are constantly managing risk, not chasing excitement. If you seek thrills, validation, or shortcuts, you signal immaturity. High-value circles are built by adults who understand trade-offs, not children chasing dopamine. This is why delayed gratification is non-negotiable. The ability to wait, to plan, and to sacrifice now for leverage later separates those who enter from those who watch from outside. You must also learn to give without expectation, because generosity without need builds trust. Wealthy people notice who contributes value without immediately asking for something in return. This does not mean being exploited. It means understanding timing. The right ask at the wrong time kills relationships. Entering rooms with millionaires requires social intelligence, not flattery. Flattery insults intelligence, while respect earns it. The 1% can smell manipulation instantly because they have seen it thousands of times. Authenticity grounded in competence is what survives. Another uncomfortable truth is that proximity to wealth often begins through work, not networking. Solving real problems, building real businesses, and delivering real results naturally places you near people with money. Chasing events, masterminds, and photos without substance keeps you on the surface. High-value circles form around execution hubs, not social gatherings. This is why becoming excellent at something valuable is the fastest path inward. Skill is leverage, and leverage opens doors. Whether it is sales, operations, marketing, finance, or systems building, mastery earns respect faster than ambition. The 1% does not reward dreams, it rewards results. Entering these rooms also requires you to respect hierarchy without worshiping it. Wealthy people do not want followers. They want capable partners and operators. Blind admiration creates imbalance, while grounded confidence creates alignment. You must know your worth without overstating it. This balance is rare, which is why it is valuable. The moment you stop trying to be impressive and focus on being effective, your energy changes. People feel safer around you because you are not seeking something from them. This safety is critical because trust flows where pressure does not. High-value circles are built on mutual benefit, not extraction. If your presence feels like a transaction, you will be kept at a distance. Entering the 1% also means you accept that some rooms are not meant for you yet, and forcing access only damages your reputation. Patience is power because it signals confidence in your trajectory. Wealthy people respect those who are building quietly, not begging loudly. This is where long-term vision becomes essential because the 1% thinks in decades, not weeks. If your goals change every month, you signal instability. Consistency and direction matters more than speed. You must also learn to say no, because boundaries signal self-respect. People who say yes to everything are not respected. They are used. High-value circles respect those who protect their time because time is the most expensive asset. Entering rooms with millionaires requires you to value your own time before expecting others to value it. The 1% watches how you manage small opportunities to predict how you will handle large ones. If you waste resources, miss deadlines, or overpromise, you disqualify yourself quietly. Nobody confronts you. They simply stop calling. This silent filtering is how high-value circles protect themselves. Understanding this makes you more intentional because you realize every interaction is a signal. Nothing is neutral. Everything either increases or decreases trust. Entering the 1% is not about becoming someone else. It is about removing behaviors that make you unqualified. Laziness, excuses, emotional volatility, and inconsistency are luxuries you can no longer afford. Discipline becomes your baseline, not your peak. Once this shift happens, you stop chasing rooms and start building gravity. People invite gravity. They do not chase it. The closer you get to the 1%, the quieter everything becomes, because noise is for those seeking attention, while results speak softly. This is where your focus narrows, your standards rise, and your tolerance for nonsense disappears. You realize that access is earned daily, not granted once. One mistake does not ruin you, but patterns do. This awareness sharpens you. Entering high-value circles is ultimately an identity shift. From consumer to contributor, from talker to builder, from seeker to asset. When you embody this long enough, rooms with millionaires stop feeling intimidating and start feeling familiar because you understand the rules, respect the standards, and operate at the frequency. At that point, entering the 1% is no longer a goal. It is simply the environment that matches who you have become, because the truth remains unchanged. The 1% does not open its doors for ambition. It opens them for value. And when you become undeniable in value, access is no longer something you ask for. It is something that finds you. And this is where the final separation happens, because by the time you reach this level of understanding, you no longer chase the idea of being in elite rooms. You chase alignment between who you are and the standards those rooms demand. Entering high-value circles is not about networking harder. It is about removing everything in your life that makes you unreliable, inefficient, or emotionally expensive. The 1% is built on clarity, structure, and trust. And trust only forms when your actions are consistent over long periods of time. This is why discipline becomes non-negotiable, because talent without discipline creates risk, and risk is avoided at high levels. When you walk into rooms with millionaires, the real test is not your confidence, but your composure, because composure signals that you have been here before, even if you have not. Calm energy earns respect faster than loud ambition ever could. This is the point where you stop performing and start operating, because operators are rare and always needed. Entering the 1% requires you to think like an owner, not an employee, even if you are starting at the bottom. Owners take responsibility for outcomes. Employees look for instructions. Wealthy people notice this distinction immediately and gravitate toward those who think in outcomes, not tasks. You also learn that the 1% is not impressed by sacrifice stories, struggle narratives, or emotional journeys. They respect efficiency, progress, and results. Pain does. Not earn entry, performance does. This is where you let go of validation entirely, because seeking approval places you beneath those you want to stand beside. Instead, you focus on becoming so competent that your presence reduces pressure in the room. People feel safer when you are involved, because you make things work. This is the highest compliment in high-value circles. Entering rooms with millionaires also means accepting solitude at times, because the discipline required to reach this level separates you from average environments. Not everyone will understand your standards, your silence, or your focus, and that is the cost of alignment. The 1% is small because most people are unwilling to live by its rules when no one is watching. This is where integrity becomes leverage, because doing the right thing consistently builds a reputation that travels ahead of you. Wealthy people trust patterns more than promises, and your pattern will speak long before you do. When you finally find yourself in these rooms, you realize something important. The atmosphere is not intimidating, it is demanding, and demand sharpens you. There is no space for excuses, but there is room for growth. Mistakes are tolerated if accountability is immediate and correction is fast. This environment forces you to evolve because comfort does not exist at high levels. Entering the 1% ultimately comes down to one decision repeated daily to live at a standard higher than what is required, even when it is inconvenient. This decision compounds into credibility, and credibility unlocks access. By the time doors open, you no longer feel excitement or fear. You feel readiness. You belong because you have become the kind of man these rooms are built for. And once you reach this point, the goal is no longer entry, it is contribution. Because true power is not being allowed inside, it is being needed inside. That is the final level, where your value makes you essential. Your presence creates momentum, and your reputation speaks so clearly that no introduction is required, because the 1% does not. Invite those who ask. It pulls those who are already operating at its standard.